The Annotate tool. Now, I'll give you a little introduction to how it works as well, and then we'll have a look at what we can do with it. But the Annotate tool is intended, up until this point, is a single-use tool in ArchiCAD. It does one thing, and that is that it converts the case of your text in ArchiCAD. So, for instance, you might use Microsoft Word or some other word processing software, and often they will have a function in them to allow you to convert the case of text. So, for instance, maybe you accidentally type in an entire sentence and didn't realize you had the caps lock button on, or maybe you want to change the case of something so that it is a title case or something like that. And often tools like Microsoft Word and other things like Google Docs and whatever the Apple one is called, I forget the name, they have a function in them to allow you to select a bunch of text and convert the case on it. And so essentially what this tool is that it allows you to do that inside of ArchiCAD. So it means you don't have to move your text, copy and paste it out of ArchiCAD, do the conversion somewhere else and then bring it back again, or try and retype it in ArchiCAD or whatever. You can just convert it inside ArchiCAD. So that's what the Annotate tool is for. And as I say, up until this point, this is the only thing that it does do. I'll quickly go through how that works after I show you the new function, which is the merging function. So I'm going to open up this detail drawing here. This is what we're going to work on later when we do our text case conversion. But for now, I'm just going to go down to the bottom here, and we have some bits of text that have just been pasted in. So what the idea here is that in certain occasions, and again, this is a thing that you won't have to do every day, but it is an annoying thing to have to deal with. Quite often it will happen if you are importing, say, a DWG or some other drawing from a different application generally. And quite often it will come through with large blocks of text that are broken up into individual text boxes, like I have for this text here. So in this case, I've just pasted in a bunch of different lines of text, but you may open up a DWG or maybe import an IFC from somewhere, and the 2D text is, oh, not IFC obviously, but the 2D text is all in different text boxes, and it makes it difficult to manage. And if you change the font, you have to move bits around because they're not wrapping properly and all of that sort of jazz. It's a big hassle, very annoying. The only way to get around it is to go through each one, select the text, cut it, go back to the first one, paste it, and then do the next one, and so on and so forth. It's an annoying thing to have to do. It takes a bunch of time, and it's not a very good use of your time. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to select all of the text boxes here. So in this case, I have 5 text boxes that have come in, and I just go to CI Tools, Annotate, choose the option to merge text, and it just does it for us. It turns that text into a single text block. And because it's a single text block, we can now do whatever we want with it. So we can resize it in this way, and it will just wrap the text like you would expect anything in a single text box to work. And it's just a completely normal text box. It's not a special object or anything like that. It has just converted them all into one text box. And you can continue to edit it and do all of the things you normally would do. So it's not doing anything crazy like turning it into an annotate object that you can only use when you have that tool loaded or anything. It's just doing the job that you would have had to do by yourself by copying and pasting or cut and pasting everything all at once. So again, the way that we do it is just to select all of the text boxes that we want to merge, go to the CI Tools menu, down to Annotate, and choose to merge text. And it will just do that. No questions asked, just all of the selected text boxes will be merged into one box. So it makes it nice and easy to do that annoying process. Now, one of the things, as with most of the stuff that I show during these webinars, is that this is a new function that we've put in because it's a situation that we've found ourselves in at times, and it's kind of annoying to deal with. So we've made a function that handles it. However, we'd like to hear from you as to whether, A, as to whether you would find it useful, and B, as to whether there are other things that you might want to do. For instance, maybe you would like it to be able to change the order that the text boxes merge in, so that instead of just going down from the top and merging them together, you can, I don't know, place them in descending order or something like that. Maybe you'd want to be able to do something with formatting. I don't really know what you might want to do, but essentially what we're looking for is ideas for things that you might like this to be able to do in addition to just the basic merge functionality. But at the moment, what it does is all of the selected text boxes get merged into one text box. That's how it's supposed to work, and that's how it does work. But any suggestions would be most welcome. Just email them through to us, nz.support@centralinnovation.com. That would be great. So that is a new function in the Annotate tool. We released it, I think yesterday or the day before, either Tuesday or Wednesday. So if you update to the latest version of that tool in ArchiCAD 28, you'll be able to do that merge function. And then the other thing I just want to quickly show you as well is that we have updated a little bit of the way that the text case exceptions work. So as you may know, if you've used the Annotate tool, when you convert your case, you can add exceptions, which we're now calling case standards because it makes a bit more sense than calling them exceptions. But essentially what it lets us do is say that in certain cases, don't do the text conversion, do something different. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to have a look at the exceptions that are set up, which we're now calling the standards that are set up. So I'll hit the edit button and it brings up the case exception manager. And you can see I've got a couple in here already. So essentially what we're saying here is if you ever see this character or characters together and they follow these rules here, then you should leave them in the case that we have them entered here. So in this case, if it finds anywhere in any text, the string G, a capital G, lowercase I, capital B, which is a brand name here in New Zealand, leave it like that. Don't correct that to all caps or lowercase or whatever. So we've got that happening anywhere it's found. Centers, we've got the same thing. So if you ever find the phrase or the abbreviation centers, CTRS, written like this, also don't capitalize that. It should always be lowercase here. And then finally, we've got the X here, so single character X. If you ever find an X and it's in between two numbers, so you can see we have a bunch of different options here. So in between two numbers in this case, then it should remain lowercase. So even if we turn everything to uppercase, our little X's that we're using in our dimensions, 20 by 35 here, 70 by 35 over here, we don't ever want that X to be uppercase, so that should always be lowercase. So we'll do that there. So that's our standards that we have set up in this project. So if I convert everything to uppercase now and hit OK, you'll see that everything gets converted to uppercase in here except for those standards that I want to be enforced. So we'll get our 10 mil, the mm is uppercase now, which is what it should have done because that's what we told it to. But then jib is written G, lowercase I, and then B. So it's observed the rule there. Then we follow further along. We've got 70 by 35, and because it's got a number on each side, we've got an X in the middle, which is lowercase still. And then we've got centers at the end also, which again is lowercase because we told it to do that in any situation. We could also go through now that we've done that and say, well, actually, I never want millimeters to be capitalized either. So let's insert a new rule here. We'll enter and we'll say that this one should apply if it is after numbers only. You could probably apply this anywhere, but if you ever write the word accommodation, for instance, or recommendation or something, it may give you unusual results. So we're going to say after a number. If you ever see an M next to an M, observe the exception to keep them lowercase. We'll hit OK, run that through, and then it redoes this one here. So you can see that now the 10 millimeters on both of those, the MMs are in lowercase now. So it has observed that as well. So you can build up a whole library of these exceptions to suit all of the types of things that you might do in your project. So that's convert case and hit the edit button here. If you get to a point where you're happy with a list of standards that you want to use and you want to get those into other projects, you can also import and export them from here. So once you get a good list of these going and they do the things that you want to do in all of your projects, just hit export, save the file somewhere that's convenient, and then on any other project that you want to use it in, just hit the import button and away you go. You don't need to worry about recreating all of these. So it would make sense to have a sort of an office standard setup of these that you use in all your projects or something, so you can easily just run this whenever you need it, hit edit and go import, bring in your standards, and then away you go. So that is the Annotate tool. And again, if you just update to the latest version of Annotate, in ArchiCAD 28, you will get that merge function and the slight new changes to the way that the standards or exceptions work there. All right, I'm going to quickly pause and see if we've got any questions, and then we'll continue on to the cable tray for the second time. All right, doesn't look like we have any questions at this stage. Cool. If you do come up with any questions, please feel free to enter those in the the chat panel rather, and I will check in on that again before I finish up. We're just going to go through the cable tray, and hopefully you'll be able to see it this time. So let me check that that works. Okay, and it looks like it is working. Let me just quickly change to 3D. Yes, I think we're good for now. Right, so the cable tray object I showed last week also, and we talked a little bit about what it does and why it might be useful. So we're going to look at that again because when I did it last week, in case you didn't see that, the screen share wasn't working for that part, so nobody could actually see what I was doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick that up again. So the cable tray object is a new object that we have created. It's not released yet. It will be probably early next week, I would say, but don't hold me to that. But soon, anyway, very soon. And what it is a very parametric object, I would call it, to allow you to draw up cable trays in your project. And in particular, what we're looking for is feedback on this one because it is doing a thing that we think is useful in ArchiCAD, but also the underlying system of it, the idea of the way the object works, is something that could apply in a lot of other cases with other ArchiCAD objects potentially. So we're interested to hear if you can think of anything else that you think it would make sense to have a similar system for. Maybe you want to apply it to any number of other things that you've tried doing before and had problems with. So let's have a look at how this works. So I'm going to go into my object tool, and in my Launchpad library, we will have the cable tray. As I said, this is not released yet, so you won't see this yet, but once you do, when I release it next week, in ArchiCAD 28, if you go into your Launchpad library, it'll be sitting down here, cable tray 2183, it's called. There's a bunch of options here. I'll jump into that in a second, but for now, I'm just going to place it and show you what we can do with this thing. So, as you can see, it places by default with a sort of a T shape. And if I select the cable tray, you will see what might at first glance appear to be a bewildering amount of dynamic hotspots. Once you start using it, you will get an idea for what each of these do. They do follow sort of a set of rules. They're not randomly placed. So you'll get an idea for how it works, but it does look like a lot to begin with. And essentially that's just because the object can do quite a lot of things, especially in floor plan view here. So using these dynamic hotspots here, we're going to start on this sort of branch of the T here. We'll start with this first hotspot here. So if I select this hotspot, you can see as I move it that the length of the edge, so that is the edge here, is extending out as I move that. So we can extend the edges and then grab the second hotspot and move that up, or well, in this case, sorry, downwards on screen, and it adds a reducer here. And if I grab the matching one on the other side, it does pretty much what you'd expect. It reduces in the other direction. So you can grab hold of both of these and reduce down to a narrower width piece of cable tray. So that's a sort of a pair of hotspots there that do it on either side. The next one along here, we move this one, and that will allow us to split the edge. So convert this from one edge into two. I don't want to do that, so I'm just going to hit cancel at this point. This one here, which is sitting in the middle, you can see similar ones here, here, and here, will allow us to add new branches. So you can see at the moment we have a single branch, which is creating this T shape. If I move this up or down, it's going to create a upward pointing or downward pointing branch. So it will break this edge here, or rather, sorry, it'll stop this edge here. It'll put a branch going up and then a new branch heading off in the direction that we're already heading. So I click there and it will give us that new piece. I'm just going to undo that so we can easily see what we were working with before, because we've still got two more hotspots. This one here will allow us to adjust the corner angle. So this is the angle that the next edge we'll use when it comes off. So when we turn this on, we'll start drawing the new edge and we can define the angle. And as you can hopefully see, it's not that your screen is refreshing slowly or anything, but this is moving in 15-degree notches. So it means that you can sort of eyeball drawing this without having to worry about getting some bizarre angle in there. You can see the edge corner angle being showed. There's 30 degrees, now it's 45, now 60, etc. So makes it nice and easy to draw those corners for you. And then the last one will allow us to change the length of the edge, but from the opposite end from where we chose before. And if we move up and down, we can also adjust the edge, excuse me, the edge of the branch that it's attached to as well. So we can adjust the length of both of those parts by moving this hotspot. So as you can see, there's lots of configurability in terms of what we can see in the floor plan view. We can do a lot of different things with the path. We can move it all around. We can add branches very easily, and curves and that sort of thing. So we can extend this edge up here and do all sorts. So you can probably see there's plenty of potential for what you can do with this. And then we can also jump into 3D and do very similar. So there's our 3D cable tray that we just drew up. And if I select it, you'll see that we have a bunch of hotspots in 3D as well. And these work in a very similar way. So we've got the split edge option and that sort of thing. But we also have this one here to adjust the rise angle. So again, it is snapping to 15-degree increments. So I can go to 45 degrees nice and easily. And now the entire cable tray, based on the point I was moving, will go up at 45 degrees. I can grab this one over here and drop it down at about 60 degrees there. And I can keep on going as well. So extend this edge out like we could do in floor plan view. And then I could drop this one down a little bit. Same here, we can go, because this is the start of the path, it's actually raising up the entire thing. We could put a little drop at the beginning here. So you can see you can quite easily lay out the shape of it in floor plan view, get it right so that it is going around the areas that you need it to, then jump into 3D and adjust the elevations of all of the parts that you need. So adjust the rises so it goes where it needs to. And when you go back to the floor plan view, everything will still match how it was before, obviously, unless you also resize the length in 3D like we did just before. But if I adjust the rise angle here to 30 degrees and jump back to the floor plan, you can see the only difference that makes is the length of this part, because it's affected by the leg below it effectively. Jumping into the settings, we also have some control over how it works. So we've got the dimensions for the cable tray here. You can choose if you want a pressed metal tray or a ladder tray, and a ladder tray will show differently, obviously. If I go back to 3D, you can see that there. So it works in the same way, it just displays differently. And then we can control how the various other parts work as well. So we can control how the reducer works, how the bends work. There's the snap value, so 15 degrees, what you saw before, but we can adjust that to other increments if that makes sense for you. We have the dimensions for the T or the branch part, and also for the risers. And again, we've got the snapping control here as well. So you can choose how that works. You can also control the overall material that we use on this one. So that's all of the building materials that are in my project. We can override the material surface color as well, so define a different surface color. But the whole thing is built using the building material, so it will still appear in a component list for that building material. And if we change to plan view symbol, we can also control how it shows in plan view. So for instance, if you want a detailed symbol in plan, you can do that and you'll see the full ladder details there. And you can control how all of the line work and that sort of thing works as well. So that is the new cable tray object. And yeah, as I said, what we're really looking for is, first of all, feedback for the cable tray specifically. Does it look like the kind of thing you would want to use in ArchiCAD? Would it be useful to you? Would it make sense for it to do other things than it can do now? Are there any other types of parts of a cable tray that it would need to be able to model or anything like that? So feedback on how this works would be great, but then also this idea of a very flexible system that we can push and pull using these hotspots could apply in a lot of places. Maybe it could be used to draw ramps or driveways, or maybe you could create ladders to put on roofs, or all sorts of things are possible with something like this. We could use the underlying structure to build different actual elements on top. So if you can think of anything that you think would be useful to put this into, I would love to hear about that as well. No idea is too wild. I'm not saying we'll create everything that you ask for, but I would love to hear from you as to what kinds of things you can see the potential for with this tool, because we think there's quite a lot that could be done with it. So yeah, just email us through on nz.support@centralinnovation.com. That will get through to us, and just write us what your ideas are for it, or what you thought of it, or what additional features you think it should have in it to be able to be as useful to you as it could be. All right, that's all I have for